welcome my dear colleagues and my students here. And of course, the today's expert moving with this expert talk series. Today we have between us Dr. Kriti Soni. She's head formulation development Dabur Research, and she's going to give you an insight about the nutraceuticals with the topic Introduction to Nutraceuticals and their importance. Dr. Kriti is not a new member to you. We have already been associated with her, and she's one of the members of the industrial board. Good morning, ma'am, and a warm welcome. So I'll just give me a minute. I'll just share your brief profile with the student. Yeah. So Dr. Kriti is she's working as head of the formulation development Dabur Research Foundation, Sahibabad, and having a vast experience in novel drug delivery system meant for topical and oral use. She has developed several patented technologies for enhancement of the drugs and phytochemicals. She's spearheading the intellectual property filing, including national patent application and patent cooperation treaty, trademarks, and product approval as per Food and Drug Safety. She is recognized as a food safety supervisor and trainer. Besides that, she's also a lead auditor for FSMS ISO 20000 and takes care of the food safety requirement related to products being developed and manufactured. And no doubt she has several national and international publications to her credit. I welcome you, ma'am, and I would request you to please take up the board and share your views. I won't get in between you and the students, and I hope students must listen to her and just take the benefits out of it and do sort your queries from the ma'am. So I'll stop sharing, ma'am, and then you can share yours.
So good morning, everybody. I would really like to thank the whole team from Lloyd for arranging this session today. I've always been very appreciative of the things that Lloyd does in order to arrange special talks for its students, because it's all the time very important that you stay connected with what is happening all around you. So, as pharmacy students, we all come across a lot of things in day-to-day life. You must be hearing a lot of things around you because of the current pandemic. People are reaching out for life-saving drugs. They are searching out for vaccines. So there is a lot of demand, or I would say there is a lot of requirement for us as pharmacy people to stand up, to provide correct information to people. So I believe that each one of you must be feeling very proud that you have selected this profession, and it's on you now that you have to be truthful and dutiful and very devoted to your profession so that you can help the mankind. So that is the whole idea. Moving on to the topic that we are going to speak about today, I would really like to tell you that why I chose this particular topic is that we are working a lot towards the medicines. You must be seeing how different ministries are coming up with different approvals day to day. Like DCGI is approving different kinds of drugs for the management or treatment of COVID-19. There are different ministries under herbals, which are Ayush and Unani and others, which are working in such a way that they can approve the existing medicines or the new medicines from the phyto sector to make them, to prove their efficacy in terms of management or treatment of COVID-19. They either act by killing the virus, they either act by increasing the immuno status of your body. So there are different pathways that these phytomedicines are working on, and definitely the synthetics or say the allopathic medicine is definitely there. So you as pharmacy students have a privilege to get exposed to all these things together. So you study about herbals in your cognosy, you study about synthetics in your pharmacology and your toxicology in all of these sectors, even your medchem. So you have a vast exposure, I would say, and there is no limit to what you can explore in that. So pharmacy students are not just limited to one space. You're not just limited to vaccines. You're not just limited to oral dosage forms, but you have a lot, many things to explore. So earlier, I think I had taken one of the orientation sessions where I actually briefed about different spaces where you can go. There is patenting, there is cosmetics, a lot of things are out there. But today, why I specifically chose nutraceuticals is that we all know about, or we would say that we all are trying to find cures or treatments related to different disorders. But what is more important is that we should never forget that prevention is better than cure. So why are we not focusing on the prevention part of it? So it's very important that we understand how nutraceuticals are conceived or made, so that we can concentrate on the prevention part also. So cure is definitely there, that we have to be focused and we have to always look for the cures, but we have to also stay in that preventive zone also, so that we can help the people who are not yet fallen into the gulfing of that disease, but they are still in that that gray zone where they are still looking for preventive measures. So that's why we are here and talking about the nutraceuticals. And since you people must have got a little bit of exposure or a lot of exposure regarding the oral dosage forms, which are tablets, capsules, so you must have read that in your Lackmans about how tablets are made, what are the different characterizations that are done. Apart from tablet, the other dosage form in the orals is your capsules. So these are the most common dosage forms that are available in order to pack anything into a unit form and give it to a person for compliance. Like one can take 2 capsules per day, or 3 or 2, whatever is the number. So that makes easy for the person to take it. Otherwise, what happens is that if I say that you take 2 spoonfuls of this thing in your milk or something, it becomes very difficult for people to measure all of these things, and it is always varying. So that is why we come to the space of nutraceuticals, where we want to be very sure about the doses and give them in a very I would say palatable form. And I would say that nutraceuticals are not just limited to tablets or capsules. There are so many dosage forms out there. If you people are, in touch with Instagrams or the social media platforms, you must be seeing that there are so many formats in the market now. There are effervescent tablets, which you can just put in your water and they will make you a drink. There are shots. There are, I would say, gummies, candies, lozenges. So there is no limit to the formats. We have actually married the food technology and the pharma space in order to make those nutraceuticals. So that image out there which you are seeing on the screen right now justifies that whatever you can consume in the form of food, it can be innovated, it can be packed with technology and then given to you in the form of a medicine. So that is how the term nutraceuticals has come. It is basically the nutrition and the pharmaceuticals, but there is a very clear line of differentiation between both of them, the pharmaceuticals and the nutraceuticals. So with this introduction, I'll move ahead. So as I said, that nutraceuticals are basically a combination of nutrition and the pharmaceuticals. So we say that nutrition basically maintains your health. It helps you prevent disorders. It helps you maintain a good body, a good mind, so that you are in a state that even if you come in contact with the disease, your body has resistance to fight for it. So then, whereas the pharmaceuticals, they are basically for your sickness, or they are a remedy, they are a cure. There are certain things which fall in both nutraceutical and pharmaceutical space, but I would say there is a very clear line of dosages which differentiate both of these. So here we come to the nutraceutical approach, which is a preventive approach. Now, why is many pharmaceutical companies also looking at nutraceuticals these days? Because we say that this is an expert guided nutrition, or this is a physician guided nutrition, because nutrition is very important along with medicine. You cannot keep both of them in isolation. I cannot say that I am focusing more on the medicines and I'm not taking a proper nutrition. No physician will ever guide you regarding that. So they will always say that you need to take these amounts of these vitamins, minerals along with your proper balanced diet, and then take these medicines. So there is a global, I would say a global demand or global understanding that there is a rise in consciousness that we need to focus more on proper nutrition. And that can be only standardized and calibrated only when you give something which can be easily taken. I cannot say a person that you consume 2 bowls of your 10 bowls of some soup per day. I can recommend as a supplement or an adjuvant, but I cannot. Sometimes it's not possible to meet that nutrition demand from the food itself. That is why these things have come into play. So there globally we have a lot of aging population. There is a lot of income to people now, which they think that they can invest into their health and they can improvise their health status. And there is an increasing penetration of different different companies who are basically thinking and giving a lot of thought towards product development, which is focused totally on the nutrition side. So that is why, this market is increasing and it is ever increasing. So there is a lot of scope over here, and one has to be very knowledgeable and understanding, and should have a very good understanding about the current requirements. So this is a glimpse of how this is increasing globally. Now coming to different skills that are important here. So see, as a pharmacy student, I would say that you are blessed to have knowledge of all the sides. You know about chemistry, you know about biology, you know about plant science. So as integrating all of it together, you have exposure to all of these sides, and you can integrate them in various ways. Like for example, the food companies. There is a nutraceutical cannot be made by individually a single person concerted. So the food people have to be consulted, the ingredient specialists have to be consulted, then the pharma company put their mind that how this ingredient gets absorbed in the body. So the knowledge of the chemistry, how the food, that particular food product is behaving, the knowledge of the food science and the biology, how this particular food will be absorbed in the body, all of that comes into play. The ingredients have to be monitored, because it's important to know the efficacy of the ingredient, the percentage of phytoactives, or the strength or purity of that ingredient. How stable is the ingredient? If I'm saying that this product is stable for 3 years or 2 years, do I have all the data associated with it, that it will retain its value over that period of time? So all of these sectors play their role, and you are fortunate enough to have knowledge of all of it. It's just that you just need to think that which expertise you want to develop, and based on that expertise you can play that very crucial role in the entire chain. So if you look at the chain right now, which is in front of you, we can clearly identify the whole process. It is like that, you conceive a concept in your mind. Okay, what is the unmet need? So for females, we always see that there is a deficiency of folic acid, B12, and iron. So what can I do to just restore that? So making out any supplement which contains any iron, salt, B12, and folic acid is a me too thing. It's something which is available out there. It won't be having any distinguishing factor. So it's important for you to understand the pharmacology behind it. Why is it not getting absorbed? What is the reason? What are the things that I can add on to this in order to increase the absorption? What are the things that we can do to make it more bioavailable in the body? So the whole strategy is decided based on that. Then consumer research, as we say, consumer research comes from the fact that what consumer thinks about the product, whether it is easy to take, or they don't like taking a lot of capsules daily. So what is the alternative methodology? And then you finally generate the concept. After generating the concept, it's important to study its toxicology. So it should not happen that whichever route you're giving the product, like I heard a very novel concept a few years back where somebody was trying to give iron and B12 through skin, through liposomes. So that was very different, because we all know that skin is a bigger barrier for anything to enter, because it will have to cross certain layers, then it will reach your system. So transdermal delivery is something that acts over there. It is completely different from what we do in the oral delivery. So that has to be understood, and the conceptualization should be very good. And whatever route you select, you have to actually prove that the particular product that you are intending to give through that route doesn't have any toxicology problem. So that has to be tested. Then your stability. So whatever period I'm intending to give the product for, it should not be that the product is losing its stability over that period of time. So it should be very stable, and the product development should be such that the entire thing, like for example, if I'm claiming that I'm giving 200 mg of calcium or whatever concentration of any mineral or ingredient, it should be retained over that period of time until you are saying that the product is stable. So that is very important. Then the product is developed, all the studies are done. Ingredient sourcing is very important, because it should not be that you are getting an ingredient from somewhere for a particular batch, but when you turn out for the next batch, or the supply goes up, or the demand goes up in the market, you do not have that ingredient to meet that demand, and the entire specs of the product change. So you have to be very sure about the back end also. Then the efficacy. So whatever I'm claiming, like for example, if I say that by consuming this product, your vitamin C level will go up in like 2 days or like 3 days. So what data do I have to support this? So this can be done in two phases. It's not just the preclinical phase or the cell line or the animal thing that we do, but it's also important to prove that clinically. So the clinical trials are designed in such a way that the regulatory demands are met, and you are able to prove that claim with substantial data, with substantial evidence. So that is how this thing is entirely made. And then comes the consumer testing. So consumer testing is a process where you give samples to people and get their feedback, or you monitor people. So a part of it is, like, I would say, a perception study, wherein you get feedback from people whether this product is actually working or not. So, and then comes your final product launch. So this is how this entire chain works. And of course, it goes without saying that during stability checking, during product development, the whole lot of chemistry, characterization, everything comes into play. So I will develop methods through HPLC, LCMS, or whatever instrument is needed to analyze that particular ingredient. Maybe, atomic absorption spectroscopy for trace minerals. So we will have to, qualify each and every ingredient for its purity through those analytical methods. So all of this is coming into play when you come to product development related to these nutraceuticals. Now, this slide gives you an insight on how different ingredients which are present in our in our surrounding, or whatever we consume through our food, are important. But it's just that maybe because the method is not okay, or the supply chain exposes that particular vegetable or fruit or any particular food ingredient in such a way that the nutrients or the phytoactives which are required get destroyed. So what has increasingly happened is that we have I would say there is no dearth of synthetic molecules out there, and we are always synthesizing the natural molecules in the synthetic way because it's always efficient. It is always the yields are higher and everything is good, and we can meet the industry requirements. But the problem is that increasingly we have realized that our natural phenomena, or our nature, has blessed us with so many phytoactives that they are still unexplored, and we need to do a lot of research on them to explore them further. There are a few which are we have already known and we have started working on, and we know that they work terrifically on different disease areas, but there are so many others which yet need to be discovered. So that is why we have the provision of phytomedicine now, and that is why there is a term which has been coined by the DCGI of India, that there is phytopharmaceuticals, which need a whole lot of other studies which are not for the pharmaceutical space because they are synthetic analogs, but there are these studies have been incorporated for the phytopharmaceuticals, and they are increasingly getting approved. So if I give you a very simple example, we all consume ginger at homes, and looking at the current scenario, we all have been consuming ginger, tulsi, and all of these things in the form of kadas. So ginger has a very potent ingredient called gingerol, which is having so many good properties. And apart from gingerol, ginger contains shogun, which is an anti-cancer moiety. So that has been studied all along. But the problem is that it is present in a very small amount in lots of ginger. So you have to extract it and bring it down to a very potent concentration. And the other problem is that if the ginger gets wet, or if the ginger is not exposed to a proper temperature during its supply, the whole of those phytoactives get destroyed. So it's very important for us to understand how these need to be stored or extracted and then converted into a proper medicine. So like you can see on your screen, lycopene, carotene, lutein, EPA, DHA. So all of these are come from our food, but the problem is the way we consume the food. Like we expose tomatoes to a very high temperature while cooking. So at times the lycopene get destroyed due to that. Another one is curcumin. We all know that turmeric, which we consume on a daily basis in Indian households, has curcuminoids. But the problem with curcuminoids is that they are not bioavailable. They're not absorbed properly in our body. That is why we always take curcumin with milk, because milk is a balance of that, I would say, a water and an oily mixture, which allows that oily phase to go in your body so that the absorption is more. So, I would say that it is very important for one to understand how this particular ingredient will get absorbed in the body. We cannot, think in silos and keep on consuming things like, okay, I am consuming turmeric at a very high temperature in my tadka, so it's going to help me. But that doesn't happen. So we have to understand that particular ingredient and how it is acting. People go on consuming a lot of green tea. It has EGCG. You can see on your screen it is epigallocatechin. So it helps in reducing weight. It has very good antioxidant properties. But at times the way it is consumed is not okay. So that is why the nutraceuticals come into play, because they try to I would say conserve the essence of that phytoactive and give it to proper form so that your body accepts it. Your body gets the benefit out of it. So as I've been speaking that, nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals are totally different. So when we talk about potency, nutraceuticals are low on potency because they are the preventive thing. They are not the curative thing, whereas pharmaceuticals are high on potency. They, the targets, if I speak about, these, your food will not always have, the curative benefits because they have weak interaction with the targets where they are intending to go because of concentration, because of several other factors. But the pharmaceutical entities are pure entities, like they are single molecules. So they will directly bind on the targets and give you the action. Now, talking about the inhibition of the disease or the treatment, so that is, very clear that you can delay or you can prevent the disease using the nutraceuticals because of their those kinds of properties that they have. Plus, you have to take them for a longer period of time. Like, for example, if I say that I have an inflammation in my body, I'm going to take cetirizine or an Allegra, because that is going to suppress that particular thing in a day or two. But that doesn't happen with the nutraceuticals. You have to build them in your system. You have to take them over a period of time so that the essence of it, the nutrition which has to come from it, is getting absorbed in your body, and your body is getting accustomed with that particular nutrition that is finally present in your body. So I would say that there is a very popular saying that food be thy medicine and not medicine be thy food. You should not be taking medicines as your food, because they're not, they're synthetic analogs, whereas your food should be a medicine. You should consume your food in such a way that it becomes your medicine. So it's all the time very important that whatever we consume, we be mindful of that. We know that what we are consuming and it is the right way to consume. So you as pharmacy people have that leverage to tell people that how this should be done. There must be a practice being taking place in your kitchens at home, where your mothers are making your food in a conventional way. But if that is not happening right in some way, you have that knowledge to correct that and make it right. Now, moving on to the strategy of the development of nutraceuticals. So I would say that nutraceuticals are just not limited to your vitamins and minerals. There is a whole lot of things which are covered under this. This can be plant-based ingredients. It can be the likes of ashwagandha, tulsi, brahmi, etc., which are recommended for several purposes these days, be it your mind calming effect, be your immunopotentiating effect. Of course, the traditional medicine, which goes without saying, that is there. And of course, the supplements that we speak about, the probiotics, the amino acids, which have to be taken through the diet, but somehow are not reaching us. So that is all of that space comes together in the form of nutraceuticals and is governed by the authority called FSSAI. So in India, these nutraceuticals are being governed by FSSAI, and this is a chief body which looks into the regulations, the doses, the standards that you are maintaining. And let me tell you, these standards are at par with pharmaceuticals. So the manufacturing, the testing, the qualification all meets the pharmaceutical guidelines, and the ingredient testing and the qualification is a very crucial part in it. Now, moving on to the different areas which are involved in developing the nutraceuticals. So like I discussed earlier, that it's not just the knowledge of the plant science, it's not just the knowledge of chemistry, but it's a lot bigger than that. You have to marry all those professions together. Like, if you're good at pharmacology, you have to bring in a pharmacology person to tell you that how this particular food is reacting in the body, what is the biology behind it. If you are good at toxicology, you have to involve that person to understand the safety of the ingredient. If you are good at pharmacovigilance, clinical trials, one has to monitor or design the trials in such a way that the trials come out and you are able to monitor the efficacy of the product in those trials. If you are concerned with the chemistry part of it, or you're good at analytical, your specialized sector is analytical, you have to ensure that whatever you are putting in the product meets all the guidelines, it has qualified the standards, it is at par with the purity and everything. So that has to be ensured at the raw material as well as at the finished product level. So when all of these things, come together, we finally, we are very sure that this product is safe for consumption. The microbiology, the pharmacology, the pharmacovigilance, the chemistry, everybody has qualified that. And of course, the developer, which is a pharmaceutics person. So this is how, the whole strategy goes. Now, if I talk about the attributes that are usually given to these products. So attributes are something, which come these days on the packs, but they're always very important to stick to. Like, we all know that since we are talking about herbal medicine, there is a lot of hue and cry at times that these are contaminated with heavy metals and pesticides. So you have to ensure that while at the collection level, when these herbs are collected, they are completely free from pesticides and heavy metals. So how this can be done? This has to be tested through an entire chain of analytical tests where you check whether this is free from this or not. There is a battery of tests that are done on this. And that's how you qualify these ingredients. Then if your claim is 100% vegetarian, you have to ensure, and you must be seeing a green and a red dot on your products whenever you buy them. So that is the mandatory requirement through FSSAI, where you disclose that your product is vegetarian. You also have to disclose about the allergens. We all know that people these days are having lots of allergies. Some people are allergic to nuts, some are allergic to seafood, some are allergic to gluten. So that has to be declared on your package, whether this product contains this or not. So, a person who's allergic can stay away from it. Then you have, the plant-based ingredients and being all natural, if you are claiming that. So that has become a lot more important now, because people are somehow, moving away from the synthetic space and moving closer to the nature. So there is I would say, an increasing consciousness of importance of accepting things which are natural. So this is all, this is all based on the rational selection of ingredients, the scientific testing, the traditional knowledge. So all of that, comes together to finally make these products. Now, when I say about COVID-19 or immunity, why we are always speaking about that? So we all know that supplements like zinc, vitamin C, iron, vitamin E, A, and B12, B6 have been recommended because these naturally stimulate your immune system in such a way that it produces antibodies to fight infections. So it's very important that your body is armed. Why are we taking vaccines now? Because vaccines are the arsenals that you have. You are basically equipping your body to fight infection. So all of these things actually, because when we did not have those vaccines, or when we did not have the proper medicines or the treatment regime, we were frantically looking for solutions, how we can fight this, how can we, protect our bodies. So the solutions came from things which were already present in our folklore or our medicinal systems, which said that you can equip your body and give it a boosting effect, give a booster to your immune system so that it can fight the infections that are around you. So all of these things have come into play because of that realization, those studies that have been conducted to show that these ingredients like zinc, vitamin C, etc., really work. Now, there must be a question in people's mind that, why nutraceuticals boost immunity and how can they boost immunity? So, we all are aware through our biology studies that we have lots of cells in our body which are intrinsically present or produced depending on the environment, which help you fight the infections. So there are natural killer cells which are always killing the infections or foreign bodies entering your body. There are T cells which are helping you modulate your immune system. The phagocytosis happens for any foreign body or antigen, which when it enters the body and the cells kill it, engulf it, they do not allow it to spread or multiply. So that is how these cells keep on protecting us over a period of time, but it's also our duty to maintain their health. So we maintain their health by giving them proper nutrition. Now, moving on to efficacy studies. Efficacy studies are nothing but, there are a simple assays which can be performed in the labs before starting anything on the humans or animals, where you check whether this product is actually acting or not. So I will give you a very simple example over here. If I say that ashwagandha or brahmi, they are having neurocalming effects, or they have neuropotentiator effects, I will simply use human neuronal cell lines and applicate my product in a certain dilution over those cell lines directly. And what we see under the microscope is a beautiful proliferation of the neuronal dendrites, and where we see that they are, they're flourishing, they're in a happy environment. And we understand that since these biomarkers are going up, like for example, when I speak about the neuronal markers, the happy hormone which is there in our body is the serotonin. So serotonin levels go up when we are happy. So if we can measure those levels in these cell lines, we'll come to know that this product is actually acting. It's behaving in a very good way. So that is how efficacy is tested in vitro studies, when we actually qualify the product in the cell line assays, so as to gain confidence that it will work in the human or the animal setting before hitting the market. So that is how the efficacy is done. And it is helpful because, it will save you a lot of time. For example, if a particular ratio of the ingredient or a particular phytoactive is not showing good efficacy in the cell line study, it will definitely not show up very good results in the in vitro animal experiments. So it will help you squeeze down your leads. If you have 1,000 molecules to study, it will help you short down, bring the number of molecules down to say 5 or 10 or whatever number you feel confident about. And similarly is the in silico studies. So, the chemistry people have been blessed with in silico studies, wherein they have an extensive knowledge about target and receptor studies. They can actually mimic those studies in a software setting, where they can see whether this particular ingredient will bind to that receptor or not. That is how drug designing happens. So that is another sector that, anybody can venture into and learn about, which actually helps you in screening the leads. It will help you bring down your leads so that, you're not confused between thousands of molecules out there, and you have a few particular ingredients which will be potent and effective on a particular target. So that enables you to shortlist your entities. Now, talking about the recent trends that are there, like, we have been talking about a lot of pharmacology and chemistry and everything that is involved, but what are the trends? The trends are not only limited to just the conventional dosage forms, but also the novel drug delivery system. So we know that a particular ingredient is not getting absorbed in the body. So what we can do to improvise its efficacy also relates to the bioavailability. So what can be done? So maybe I can make a microemulsion, maybe I can go for a nanoparticle delivery, or I can go for a polymer targeted delivery. So these are different ways by which the pharmaceutics people can apply their minds and increase the efficacy of the ingredient. By microencapsulation, you will be able to retain the efficacy for a longer time, or you will be increasing the stability of the ingredient over a longer time. So all of this becomes very important. So one of the major trends that is right now happening is the natural trend, that everybody wants to be closer to the natural space. So that is why we are venturing more into the ingredients which are present in our fruits, in our vegetables. We have also started looking for sugar substitutes. So we all know that stevia is a compound which is there, but it has some aftertaste. It had some bitterness associated with it. So we came out with a solution to derivatize it and convert it in such form that the bitterness is reduced, the aftertaste is reduced. We try and mask that, because that is a natural sweetener, whereas the synthetic sweeteners which were available earlier, like cyclamates and others, they were carcinogenic. So, we have understood that a lot of dependence on chemistry is not good. It has to be there whenever you need it for, the benefit. But if at all you understand that it has a drawback, you have to quickly switch over to the natural forms. Then comes the innovative delivery format. So like I said that, these days we are with effervescent tablets, we have mouth dissolving strips. The whole reason of selecting those particular formats is because of the inherent property of the ingredient. Like for example, if I give something in a form of a tablet, it will not get absorbed properly. It will go through first pass metabolism, and a very very small amount of that particular ingredient reaches my circulation finally. So it is important to understand that how I can bypass that. So one of that routes is that, I can give something through the buccal cavity. So when you give something to the buccal cavity, your buccal cavity is already rich with blood supply. So it will directly reach your circulation. So that particular ingredient can be given in the form of a mouth dissolving tablet. It can be given in the form of a strip, which is these days available in the form of mouth refreshing strips of Listerine and others. So it will allow you to take that benefit from your, the buccal cavity, and it will reach your system quickly. So, you have to be very observant of how that particular ingredient benefit is required and select the delivery format based on that. Now, coming on to the conditioning of the market. So, today there is a lot of need of immunity products, but that will never go away because that will always be required. Because today we are facing this pandemic, God knows, what future holds for us. So we have to be very observant of that. And not only that, but we have to be very careful about our individual organ health. We are working a lot from homes. So your eye and your brain has been compromised. So people are having a lot of anxiety problems, sleep problems. So all of that is related to your brain and your cognitive function. So one has to maintain a very good brain health. And that can be done from, by taking some nutritional interventions, or by adopting to certain herbs like ashwagandha, brahmi, like I've been speaking about. When it comes to eye health, we all have been reading and been taught about the importance of carrots, carotene, vitamin A for eye health. So that becomes important there. Then moving on to heart health. So you have to be, because of the physical activity being restricted and you are confined in your spaces, you need to maintain your body health in terms of your heart health and your digestive health also. Because digestion and heart, they remain fine when you're working and moving and exercising. But if you are not getting that opportunity, they also get compromised. So you have to take care of your digestive health by giving it sufficient probiotics, by giving it certain ingredients which will help you calm your gut. And of course, the heart health. So your heart muscles need some kind of nutrition. So that comes from omega-3 fatty acids or certain other nutrients which need to be, going into your body in some way or the other. So there are some challenges which are there through the diets for vegetarians, whereas non-vegetarians have I would say a better access to it. So the boon to the vegetarians is, or say the bliss to the vegetarians is that they can make up for that that particular phytoactive or that ingredient through these nutraceuticals. So they need not necessarily be a capsule or a tablet. It can be a drink, it can be a protein powder, it can be a supplement which can be taken up with your shakes or anything. So that is how this can be customized and then given to the people depending on their religious beliefs, depending on their diet choices. So that is how they are trending up. Now if I talk about the prospects today, so it is clearly increasing. So this is just a representative bar graph to show you that the demand, the supply, everything is going up and up. Because somehow we've been able to amalgamate all the knowledge from the food, from the medicine together, and the Ayurveda, of course, and pharmaceutics and pharmacy, that we have put it all together and packed it in such a way that people can have benefits from it. So I hope I have been able to cover things for you and it's been helpful. So if any questions or any kind of doubts you have in your mind, I'm open to it and free to answer all your queries.
Yeah. It was quite informative, ma'am. And students, now the session is open for the question answers. You can put up your queries and ask them, ma'am. Either you can put in the chat box.
बेसिक मेरा एक क्वेश्चन था कि जो एक्चुअली मैंने ना मिड ऑफ आपके जिसमें ज्वाइन किया था ड्यू टू सम ऑफिशियल वर्क, तो मैं ये देख रहा था कि आप एंजाइटी पे आप कुछ बता रहे थे. ओके, तो एंजाइटी और ये सब के लिए मुझे ना ये पूछना था कि क्या इनकी कुछ कोई पर्टिकुलर डाइट्स होती हैं कि आप ऑफिस में जैसे हम बिजी हैं या कुछ हम पर्सनली बिजी हो जाते हैं और कुछ चीज़ों को स्ट्रेस लेवल को इतना इंक्रीज कर लेते हैं, एंजाइटी बढ़ जाती है और हम आइडेंटिफाई नहीं कर पाते समवेयर. तो ऐसा होता है कि मतलब प्रॉपर हम एक स्लीप नहीं ले पाते या प्रॉपर हम एक कहीं हमारा लैक ऑफ डाइट होता है कि जिससे हम जिससे चीज़ें मतलब हम आइडेंटिफाई नहीं कर पाते कि कहाँ पे क्या चीज हो रही है, लाइक मेरे को लेकिन जितना पता लगा था कि एंजाइटी का ही एक थोड़ा सा मेरा इशू चल रहा है।
Mhm.
तो
So, Kapil, if you are facing that, it's all the time. You know, if you are facing a chronic problem, I would say you should always consult your doctor. But अगर if you are not thinking that अभी उतना level नहीं है and you know you have to manage it on your own, I would suggest you take some ashwagandha and all these things so that it will start helping you now and it will not increase the problem further. And
ओके
ashwagandha anyhow, you know, it's not only helping you calm your brain down, but it also helps you boosting your immunity. So there are multiple benefits associated with certain ingredients. So a combination of say ashwagandha, brahmi, jatamansi will definitely help you. But again, I would say that you know, in case that problem is you think it is getting increasing and it's on a higher side, then you must definitely consult a doctor for that.
Okay, I do have like 72 to 75 kg of my weight. Okay, so like how much I need to take the dose of the ashwagandha? Is it
So for daily dose, you know, you can take 500 mg twice daily. So that is the most recommended dose right now. But I would say yeah, uh, you just
500
take it for
mg
a month.
in the tablet form?
Tablet or capsule doesn't matter, any form.
Can I have in loose like from the Pansari shop?
You can have from Patanjali.
Yeah, okay,
So
Patanjali.
many, I mean, the formulators have developed. So sorry to say that you can add up your yoga also in your daily life with ashwagandha, and definitely it will bring your energy down. So
Okay.
yoga plus ashwagandha as suggested by Dr. Kriti, that you can have that 500 mg twice a daily, and along with yoga, that is very essential. And even if you can do some yoga exercises, that will be better in your daily life.
And the hair fall is also maybe reason of the anxiety.
Could be.
Yes. Yeah, and for that you can also have multivitamins, like having something like biotin and B12. So
Okay.
vitamins, because this time is something that I think each and every hour having multivitamins. Just add B12, biotin to that along with iron and B12.
एक मेरा एक बेसिक क्वेश्चन और था कि जो हमारे एंजाइटी या टेंशन से जो स्ट्रेस से हमारे जो हेयर फॉल होता है, तो इज इट पॉसिबल कि वो वापस आने के भी चांसेस होते हैं, और इट्स बीन
100% वापस आ जाते हैं. Depends
Okay.
upon the age factor also. And you're so young, definitely आ जाएंगे. और अपनी एग्जिटी आप कम करो थोड़ी सी, थोड़ा सोचना भी बंद कर दो.
Okay.
तो ठीक हो जाएगा.
Okay, thank you ma'am, thank you so much.
A very warm welcome, Kanchan ma'am.
Thank you so. So, Dr. Kriti, I do have one question. Is there any product which has gone for clinical trial from your research center?
Yeah, so recently we completed a clinical trial on a product called Viranorm. So we have evaluated for antiviral effect and COVID-19 management. So the trial was conducted at 3 centers in India, and we have got very positive responses in terms of curing this with SOC. So it is having a very good effect when given with the standard of care, and also with comorbidities. So a person who's taking this along with, because you know we do not recommend that you go off your other medicines when you are taking any supplement. So when given along with that, it has shown very good recovery. So yeah, that's there. And apart from that, there are several others which are currently in the trial. So just hoping for positive feedback from that also.
Thank you, very nice. And maybe in coming time you will be having that your antiretroviral product in your hand, and that will help a country lot to save from this pandemic.
Really optimistic about it.
Yeah.
So how are you doing, ma'am? I know you are in recovery.
Yeah, I'm now fine now. And my husband has recovered after a month, so he's too weak, but improving certainly. So we both been admitted in Apollo. Then after that, he had developed secondary infection. Then he had been admitted to Max Shalimar for 15 days and 8 days for Apollo. So after a month, we've been recovered now. Thank God.
So just
So-
hope for the speedy recovery. And I know it's a very tough time for all of us, but yeah, we have to be positive and up and
So, Kriti, that's your personal question, I think. So, since your husband is from medical profession and he's working with the COVID patients also, taking care of the COVID patients also. So, how you are taking care of him and yourself, like that sometimes,
Yeah.
isolation problem and, virus problem and this, what clothes he's wearing, then how you are managing. So like
So there, I would say that people ask me. There is a very recent thing that happened. So yesterday only, somebody was asking me about some supplement that they wanted to take. So I told them, you take it. So they said कि हम एक और भी ले रहे हैं. तो मैं 5 ले रही हूँ. Doesn't matter. So अभी ऐसा है कि I start my day with ashwagandha and Varanom, and which is basically rich with ginger, vidhania, cis contragulus. So there are a lot many ingredients in that. So I start my day with that along with some vitamin supplements, and then I'm isolating myself in another room all the time, taking precautions of wearing the mask even inside the house, and even in the kitchen and bathroom, sanitizing all the surfaces all the time. And yeah, so trying to maintain proper distances. So that is something that I'm doing in the house itself. So like right now I'm sitting in my room, that's why my mask is not on because it's closed. But whenever I step out of it, it's like that I'm always on my guard. So that has to be done. And a lot of steam. So at least 4 to 5 times steam daily, and using some, I would say, oils for the nasal root. So I'm using some essential oils and other decoctions for the nasal root in order to cleanse the nose all the time, because the divine entry point is the nose. So that has to be taken care of.
So all means that is with the help of the nutraceuticals, essential oils and phytoconstituents.
Yes,
So
totally.
that's totally with that. So they are the essential parts now. So we have to look for them and we have to work for them, and especially for MPharm students who have to go for the project work, they must choose their project from work from these phytoconstituents and nutraceuticals, as you know, Dr. Kriti has given so much this information about that and the importance of these products in our daily life. So this is what my suggestion is also there. So,
yeah, thank you, ma'am. Like, ma'am, there is another question from one of our faculty members. It's given in the chat box. Like, is there any specific nutraceutical which is reported to have drug interaction by inducing or inhibiting liver enzymes, like well-known grape juice does?
Yeah, so
Please
there are
give some light
several.
to it.
Yeah, so when we, if I talk about drug interactions, there are so many drug interactions that can happen. Like, for example, there are certain herbal ingredients which naturally act as anticoagulant. So they should never be given along with the anticoagulant. So because, your the blood thinners will go up in your blood. Because right now, because of COVID, we have a lot of problem of blood clots. So everybody is taking, whosoever is in the recovery or is suffering from COVID, they're on blood thinners. One has to be very mindful of that. And when you select your ingredient or a particular supplement, just go through the drug interactions. It's very important. They do have very strong drug interactions. And I would say that although they are very slow in building up the herbals, because they need some time to act, but once they have built up in your system, the drug interactions can be scary. So, you have to be very mindful of that. There are lots of drugs out there, the herbal drugs, which do have very strong drug interactions.
Ma'am, actually, Dr. Kumud lost her connection. So there's another question actually in the chat box, and Dr. Shilpa. Yeah.
Kya?
Just a minute. So the question is, can gamma oryzanol help in increasing immunity? This is one question from one of the students.
So gamma oryzanol is basically, what happens is that the chemistry needs to be searched. So being present in combination with others, it definitely does increase immunity, but I would not say that there is a single dependence on one. So, you cannot depend directly or completely on a single ingredient. It has to be a combination of several others. Like we know that omega-3 fatty acid does a lot towards increasing your immunity. It does maintain a good cardiac health. So I would say that we cannot just rely on a single thing to do that. It has to be a combination of multiples of them.
Right. There's another question from one of our students, Prashant Narula. He wants to know about the omega-3 fatty acids. How can we include them in our diet?
So, there is a live session that I did with an expert on this who's been researching on omega-3 fatty acids for so long in Canada. And you can refer to that on Instagram. Or else, what my suggestion is that kindly include lots of flax seeds and sources of omega-3 fatty acids in your food. If you can consume non-veg, then go for fish, because it chiefly comes from fish oils. And
Right.
the last resort is that if you cannot, put these things in the form of nuts or the flax seeds that I'm saying, then you can go for the capsules that are regularly available. But you have to be, very careful about the doses there also. So 1000 mg per day is the recommended doses in the current times. But if you say that on a regular basis, when the things turn normal, you can also go for a 500 mg one. So that is, I would say, different sources in the form of food or the supplement that one can take.
Right. Thank you so much. I guess Dr. Kumud is back. Kumud ma'am, am
Yes,
I?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Please carry on.
Yeah, I just had a technical glitch. Sorry for that. Like, do we have any other questions? Or like, shall I wind up? So, like, Dr. Kriti, it was really nice listening to you. And like, I would just like to present a virtual certificate for your this talk. And Lloyd, is really great to be associated with you. And we'll be definitely mailing it the same. So this is a very small token of gesture, this e-certificate for your e-lecture. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thanks for being on this platform. And I hope the students shall take up the lesson, as Kanchan ma'am said, that this is a really upcoming field which students should opt as their career. So it was very nice talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be here, and really wish that we see very bright and young minds developing newer things and newer solutions in this segment. And all the best to the entire team.
Yeah. So Vanna ma'am wanted to join, but she had some other preoccupied commitments. So
totally understandable, not a problem.
Yeah.
No, I would like to add that this was a very apt topic, keeping in mind today's COVID-19, a very apt topic, and
Yes.
yeah, so we must apply this also in our daily life. So thank you so much once again, Kriti ma'am, and we hope to see you again in our future sessions. Thank you so much.
Sure, definitely. It will be my pleasure. Take care.
Yeah.